Hi, welcome back. My name's Martin. If you remember my very first video, I talked about the fact that I had a Tandoor that I built myself. It did go to all disrepair and it went all damp and it went all horrible, so I just took it to bits and I haven't used it for a year basically. Well, the thing is, spring's in the air. I thought it would be a great time to actually start to put it together again, but also if I film it as I'm going along, hopefully you might get some tips on how to build one yourself. You have to excuse the dog. I'm babysitting a dog at the moment and she's gone a bit wild in the garden, so you might get that during the course of the video as well. So first of all, I thought we'd assemble the outer part of the oven. So what I've got here is I've got this big massive pot. It absolutely weighs a ton. And now what I've done is, you can see here, I've made a big hole, probably about 100 mil square in the bottom of it. So that's where we want to get the airflow coming up through. Now this is so heavy that what I'm actually going to do is set it up on the plinth, so it's in situ, and then we can start building up the Tandoor from there. So I've now got my pot, outer oven if you like, in situ. As you can see, what I've done here, I've sat it down on some bricks, look, and that's so that we can get some airflow underneath. And also, you can see there, we've got that airflow there as well. So what's also good about having that air gap underneath is also I can fit my ashtray underneath, so that when I clean it, I can get all the ash in there and we can clean it out properly. Now the next job is to build up the inner oven. Now what I want to do as much as possible is keep the inner oven separate to this so that we can insulate it. Now what I've got and what I'm going to put down on the base is I've got this fire resistant board that I used when I fixed up my log burner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a couple of pieces of this. We'll make a hole the same size as that, so we've got the airflow, and then what we'll do is we'll sit the inner oven on top of this board. So as you can see, what I've done, look, I've cut those boards and I've just cut them the same size as what the hole is under there. So therefore we've still maintained that gap for the air to get through. Now these boards, you don't have to use these boards, you know, it's only the fact that I had them left over, but they do cut really easy. I just cut them with a plasterboard saw. So I should say that the idea is, this is the outer part, or the outer wall of the oven if you like, and what we're then going to do is put the inner walls of the oven inside by using our pots here, but then what we're going to do is keep them completely separated from the outer part and then insulate, and then that will be the formation of the Tandoor oven. So yeah, I've got my outer part now all in situ, look, all sitting there on bricks. I've got it in, as you can see, it's all nice and level. Okay, so the next step now is to set up the inner part of the Tandoor. So I've got two pots here. As you can see, the larger one, I actually rescued that a few years ago out of a skip. It's a really thick and robust, but at the time I gave it a proper scrub and a salt wash, so it's perfectly clean inside to use. This one here, that's going to go on top, and that's a brand new pot. So what's going to happen is that one sits in first, and then the other one is going to go upside down over the top. So in effect, that's what it's going to look like. We've got the outer part here, this is the inner part, so we've got our large pot down at the bottom there, and then we've got our other pot inverted on the top. And what we want to try and do as well is get that as level as we possibly can. So what we're going to do is cut the top off this, okay, so that then we've got our oven. Now what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to get the level of that and cut that off so that it's level with this. So I'm going to do that by putting my level across there, sitting on the top, and then what we'll do is mark it underneath, and then what I'll then do is cut the top off at that line. And there you go, there's the pencil mark. So what we'll do is I'll now cut it off, cut the top off at that pencil mark at that point, and then that then will be nice and flush with this. So as you can see, what I've done, I've made a line all the way around. So all I've got to do now is get my angle grinder and cut the top off. Right, so I think now we can start assembling the inner part of the tandoor. So as you can see, I've got these bits that I cut there. I've actually put some stones just around the bottom. It's really just to sort of hold this in place so it doesn't move. So yeah, let's get started and we'll get it all built up. So we've got our large pot. We'll get this in first. Get it as central as we can into there, like that. And while I'm at it, just check the level. That's nice and level. And we get our other one. And just put that over the top. Now this might not be a perfect fit, but we just got to try our best to get it as level as possible, and I think that is pretty much how we want it, but not that way. Could do with probably being built up just slightly, but I think we'll be okay. Next job is to get all this area here insulated. So what I'm going to do is use some vermiculite. I'd prefer to use large. That's normally the way I would go with this, but I just couldn't get any large. I could only get medium, so I'm going to use that instead. So what we need to do now is get this in here without getting it all over the place, and try and get this filled up. So what I've done with the vermiculite is, as you can see, I've got that just slightly lower than the pot itself. It's just under the ridge. So therefore, we've now got that gap there. And then what's going to happen is, when we're cooking, we're not going to get vermiculite falling into the pot. So it's looking good and we're nearly there now. Now what I've done in the middle is, if you look down there, now when I come to put the charcoal in, I didn't want to put it directly on the bottom of the pot, if you like, because what's going to happen eventually, it's going to crack and break. Now I don't want my big pot to crack, so what I've done, I've used a little bit, couple of strips of that fire resistant board, and then what I've basically done is I've got myself a saucer, and I've put that in there like that, and hopefully what we're going to do, if I get all that nice and, so hopefully what that will do then
I've never done it this way before, to be honest. I did have a nice metal grill that I was going to use, but unfortunately it was too big. So what I've done is I've basically got a terracotta saucer, drilled a load of holes in it, and for now I'll use that as my grill. Now the thing is, eventually that's just going to break and just fall to bits, but at least I can just go and get myself another one, or eventually I'll get myself a metal grill that fits. Right, so the next job now is to get this seasoned. So there we go, I've put some charcoal in, get myself a lighter, and I'll get that charcoal lit. Okay, so I've got my charcoal lit. Hopefully now what's going to happen is we're going to season the tandoor. What I didn't tell you earlier is what I actually did is all the lining of the lining of the oven, I did actually put some oil around it, just like some cheap cooking oil, that was all, just to season it, that was all. So I've now got my coals going inside. It's feeling nice and warm, that is. Now we don't want to get it too hot, we're just trying to season this, that's all. And I'm just going to leave that now and let that warm itself up and let itself go out again. Now the other thing to bear in mind here is that vermiculite is very light, and what's going to happen, as you can see, look, as soon as I get a windy day, that's all going to blow all over the place. So what we're going to have to do is try and cover that up to finish it off. So I've now covered it in some decorative stones. Look, that's going to stop all the vermiculite blowing away. Whether I keep it like that, I'm not really sure. I might come up with something better yet, but that'll do for now, and it will stop everything blowing away and keep everything nice and tidy. So there we have it, there's the completed job. There's my new tandoor. Hopefully next week I'll be cooking something really sexy on it. It's took me less than a day. Started at 9 o'clock this morning, it's now 2 o'clock. So there you go, thanks for watching, and wait for the next video.
Hi, welcome back. My name's Martin. Oh fucking hell. So the next job is to build up the inner oven. Now what I've actually got, look, is this, well, let me just say for, oh bollocks.